Welcome ladies and gentlemen, I am SocioPsycho and this is Mob Reviews, and today we're going to take a look at Mini Metro. This is created by Dinosaur Polo Club and it's available for PC, Mac, and Linux. It is a line-based simulation strategy time management subway system. How well does it actually pull that off? And that's what we're going to dive into here today. And we will begin in the options menu. Now we do have a large breadth of screen resolutions, which is appreciated for different sizes of course. You have night mode and colorblind mode. I really appreciate that, because while the game is simplistic, having those two do make a difference. And they definitely don't skimp on what they do have available, as the graphical quality of the game is quite simplistic. Although it's been running at 60 frames per second with no tearing, clipping, or crashing. I've not had any performance issues in that regard. So when we look at what the game has to offer, the first thing we're going to look at is the mission layouts that you have available to you. Now there are daily challenges, and I definitely do appreciate them having this, because not only do you have, okay, this is what you're expected to have, of course I would have liked to see a transportation, because the whole point of the game is a subway management system where you transport people from one station to another. So while you have the city and the difficulty, you don't have a expected level of completion, not like 500 or 400 or 300 people. Having that would definitely give an extra incentive to the player to be like, oh, I can get that much. So when we go into the leaderboard here for this daily, you can see the list of the people and the passengers of a high rank they have. So even if you don't get to the top 10, having some sort of, hey, you got 300, you did good, buddy, don't worry about it, you did good. And that would have been nice. Instead, it just feels like, well, I'm not as good as those people, so why bother playing again? It doesn't really motivate you or pat you on the back at any point in the game to say, hey, you can do it, I believe in you. And that does tie into the other elements of the game, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, in the beginning, the way that you move around the different options menus is very sloppy, I would like to say, as it's a lot of confusion and not that clean of an interface and ease. Like when we go down here to mode, it brings it down to another system which is just for difficulties of normal, endless, and extreme. The whole point is not to let the stations that people arrive on and your trains carry them station to station. If these stations overcrowd, you lose the game and you have to start over. There's no reason that difficulty mode couldn't be on the bottom of this level selection mode. So when it comes to content in the game, while as we stated the game is rather simplistic, it does have a multitude of different levels as well as your dailies. So if this is a game that you really do enjoy playing, you're going to have an abundance of content and not feel as if your needs aren't being met in that regard. Another thing that's very important to list is that each one of these missions also have their own leaderboard style, so you can see where your score is versus the other players and what your rank is. That is very appreciative because it ties in a little bit more effort to the whole, well, maybe you don't enjoy it on this level, but it has a leaderboards, so maybe you're more competitive style and you'll go for that. So when we jump into this game, there's a few points to talk about. As you've noticed so far, the game is very simplistic. It's a line-based system. On the bottom in the middle of the screen, you do have the different tracks that you have. As if you look at any point in time at a map of a subway station, you'll see the different lines, a red line to a blue line, a green line to a central station, and so forth. The game goes by a time management element. Every week that passes by, you will acquire more upgrades for your subway stations. And the whole point is to transfer characters to the different stations. The main thing about the gameplay upon why this game falls down to a heavy ordinance of preference is because the game itself makes it a point to state that you will not win. It has no end game finale. The leaderboard at best would be your end game to try to get to the top score or close to it. Well, that's more of an individual element, as the game itself really doesn't have anything of an end game. You will fail. Even if you're number one on all the leaderboards, you will eventually fail. There is no completion. The game will run its course and you will fill up your stations, and if you do not transport your passengers to other areas, then you will lose. And how the game is set up to fail is while you increase your lines and stations in a randomized element of, now you have to bring a track over to this new station that popped up and you need a train to travel to this area. Eventually more stations are going to be populated and overpopulated in comparison to how many tracks or trains that you have, and you can't keep up. And with the every weekly increase of certain abilities that randomize, do you want a bridge this time to get over water? Or maybe a tunnel depending on the map? Do you want a track or an extra car on one of your trains? There is no resource management in this game. There is no building your subway empire, and the more passengers that you transport, you get more money or anything else. It's not like that. It's a time management, not a resource management. And the strategy element in the game falls down to, okay, well, I do this line in an L shape versus a triangle, and my train will be able to move faster. The strategy is simply just understanding where the best layout is going to happen, not strategically increase your odds or capability to handle it, because as we covered, the game is against you from the start. You will fail. It's only a matter of time of how long you can survive. The game's simplistic nature of take one line and move it to another and the train goes back and forth. It's a very, very simplistic concept and idea. And it may be what you're looking for because it takes next to no brain power in order to be able to do it. You really don't have to worry about or think heavily about what you're doing. And as I said before, there's no resource managing, so you don't have to plan out how to build an empire of subway stations. The game is simplistic in the most simplistic of fashion, but that doesn't mean that the game is bad. It does have, I feel, some shortcomings by not making some attainable goals on these different levels to help the player feel spurred on, as if, oh, 300, good job, oh, 500, you're awesome, oh, 700, whoa, you're amazing, 1,000, what? It doesn't have anything like that to really spur the player, to encourage them to be better, to be stronger, to try to figure out and manipulate the system to the best of their abilities. And it does have some Steam achievements, but without it spurring on the player to achieve more, I don't really know how effective the achievements are going to be unless you really enjoy the game. On a baseline mechanical element of the game itself, it works fine. Point A to point B and manage where your trains are going. Mechanically, it's very simplistic. It's not complicated, it's perhaps too simplistic. And for me personally, that's what I didn't like about it. I was really hoping for a little bit more of a gameplay element in managing resources or building up a small little underground empire in a subway station and having some sort of facility like that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was just more of a time waster where you do a task that's going to fail, you know it's going to fail, so you have no point in doing that task outside of some baseline enjoyment because there's no external factor of encouragement, which questions the level of replayability for those who even do enjoy it. So at the end of the day, I'm really not sure the type of person who would be enthralled by this style of game, who would really jump at the opportunity upon seeing this and be like, oh, I have to have this game. But if you do see this review after seeing the game because you were hoping it would have more, well, now you know it doesn't. It's very simplistic. But it doesn't mean that the game is bad mechanically. While I did not enjoy it at all, I found it to be a waste of my time and rather unmotivating in any regard to complete the tasks. It was just simply not for me. Mechanically it worked fine, performance-wise it worked fine, leaderboards excellent, but this game is casual even for casuals. That's how laxed it is. So for the asking price of $10, I'm going to say no. I cannot recommend it unless you're really a hardcore fan of this style of gameplay. And if it does look interesting, then get it on sale for at least half price. We got plenty of Steam sales always coming around the bend. But at $10 full price, for the level of what you have available, it's not enough. The music in the game doesn't even enthrall a sense of urgency or epicness. There's no large battle-crying feelings of, alright, we can do this, or oh, the tempo's getting closer, oh, my stations are getting more filled up, the music's getting more intense. There's no correlation with the music really in the gameplay at all. And it blurs the line in between where the game just stopped being a developmental progression and where they just said, okay, that's good, that's all we want. Because it has so little in it. So ladies and gentlemen, for full price, no. Mechanically, it works as it's intended. I have been SocioPsycho. This has been Mob Reviews. I hope this has been help to you, and I'll see you next time.
We are here, forever. sun.